Hi, I'm Kevin Turner from Real Estate Talk, and joining me on screen now, Jo Chivers, who is from Property Bloom, and you can probably see that on her logo there. G'day, Joe.
Hi Kevin, how are you?
Fantastic. We're going to talk about splitter blocks because that's the article in the latest Australian Property Investor magazine. Can anyone do a splitter block or a small subdivision, Joe?
Well, yes, everything to do with property development has, a level of understanding and experience. So it is really important that you do a bit of due diligence and most importantly, read over the council development control plans for your subdivision in your area, just to understand the guidelines and what their requirements are. But generally, yes. But you will need the help of a good surveyor, I would say, as a starting point to starting a subdivision for your very first subdivision, of course.
How hard is it to find one? How do you go about locating a profitable one, Joe?
Well, yeah, that's the trick. It's really important that you understand what your end values are going to be as a starting point. So if you've got let's say you've got a corner block, which I would say is often could be the most simplest subdivision to start with, a corner block perhaps with a house on it that you can get some yield, to get some rental income from the house while you're doing all of the work required for the subdivision. And the first thing you need to know is what the minimum block size is, of course. So if you've got 1,000 square metre block and the minimum lot size is 500 square metres, then you can literally cut that corner block in half. So you need to just understand what the end value is. If you're going to sell after you've subdivided, you need to understand what the value of that land will be once you've subdivided. So, and what the value of the existing property of the house on the smaller lot, on the 500 square metre lot, may be as well. Once you've run those numbers, then you need to know the costs and get a bit of a cost estimate of the subdivision works. Now, it's not cheap to subdivide in most cases, so it's really important to get a handle on all of the costs involved.
So, what are the costs? Is there a standard to the costs at all, Joe? I mean, does it vary according to the location and even the difficulty of the block?
It does vary, and that's the issue. So it's really important. The surveyor will be able to give you a good estimate on things like service connections. You may need to run the sewer line around the corner, for instance, or depending on where all the services are located, that adds to the cost. Also, your plumbing works to extend that sewer line. You either usually are referred to as minor or major plumbing works, and major plumbing works can be quite expensive. So the first place to start is chat to the surveyor, get an idea of the costs, and it'll only be an estimate because every subdivision is different. The surveyor will be able to give you his quote for his surveying work, for doing a survey, the survey work and putting the subdivision plan together, and they can also help you lodge the DA. You need to talk to council about their council fees and charges. But the most important thing is getting a handle on what the construction works are going to be for the subdivision. If it's not a corner block, or even if it is a corner block, you will still need to put driveway access in. So you need to include driveway works, excavation works if required, service connections, those type of things, surveying work.
How much due diligence do you allow yourself on a site either before you go to contract or after you go to contract, Joe?
Well, as much as possible, but sometimes you do need to move quite quickly on these sites. If a good one comes up, you don't really often have a lot of time. So I would suggest that even before you look for the actual property, locate the suburb or the area that you're wanting to develop in and do a lot of due diligence first so you understand what the end values are going to be. Then when a good deal comes up, you can grab it quite quickly. So as soon as you find the property, you want to start, talking to agents, getting an idea of the end values, talking to the surveyor, getting an idea of the costs, and then start negotiating. Also, something I would suggest is negotiating a long settlement period. So once you've exchanged, you can really start working on that project. But you might have, if you can negotiate, say, 12-week settlement, that'll give you 12 weeks to get all of your DA prepared, the subdivision plan done, the surveys done, everything else that's required to get it into council. So you'll also need to get permission from the vendor to lodge with the council. But if you can get it into council and then they are starting to process it during that settlement period, then you're going to save yourself holding costs. You could also negotiate if the house is empty, say when you buy it, you can negotiate with the vendor to actually hold open homes and get a tenant in during that settlement period too. So yeah, these are all things that you want to be able to move very quickly, but have a very good understanding of the area that you're subdividing in firstly. So do a lot of due diligence to start with, so you're ready to roll. Put your team together. So on your team, you need a good accountant that can help run the figures with you and make sure it is going to be feasible for you. You need a good surveyor, of course, number one person. And if you're inexperienced and time poor, have a look at using a project manager, because that's what we do at Property Bloom, is project manage these type of developments. And so you can learn a lot along the way while you're actually going through the process.
You've done a lot of these for yourself and for other people as well, Jo. What do you see as the common mistakes that people make when they decide to get into this type of development?
Okay, it's probably site selection and understanding where the services, if the services are connected, or where they need to come from to connect to the newly created lot. So the main problem I find, or the main area that can be costly, is in those service connections. As I say, the sewer, if it's in an existing area like an older suburb, then the infrastructure of the services may need upgrading. So you may not only just need to obviously extend the sewer line to the newly created lot, but you may need to do some work to upgrade that sewer or water main as well. So these are the type of things that can add a lot of cost. Excavation work, obviously, if there's rock hit, that can always add costs, and people just don't seem to consider. I mean, I would use, just as a very rough guideline, because every site is different, a cost of 30 to 50,000 for subdivision costs. So it does get up there.
Great advice, Jo. Thank you. There's a lot more advice too in the article within Australian Property Investor magazine. But Jo, for the time being, I want to say thank you for joining us. Jo Chivers is from Property Bloom. Thanks for your time, Jo.
No problem. Thanks, Kevin.